Emmett Lewis Till was a 14-year-old boy that was wrongfully lynched for what a woman said happened. This woman in particular, just recently, we found out had an arrest warrant out for her. We are talking about the death and wrongful death of Emmett Lewis Till today. Everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, and today we're going to be discussing the death of Emmett Lewis Till. Now, most of you might know who Emmett Till is. I grew up knowing a lot about his case. This is a very widespread case that is taught in the Northeast. If you don't know, I live in New England, which is in the northeast part of the United States. And I know civil rights is more proudly talked about in the South, but we talk about it a lot in our education system in the New England area. And we have Civil Rights Day, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day, all over the world does, well, specific parts of the world do, but it is taken very seriously up here. And I grew up learning about the death of Emmett Till, and this case has always rocked my core. I don't know if it's, for me, the first time I saw his photos, how disgusting of people can be for hurting a 14-year-old girl, for falsely accusing a 14-year-old boy of something that he didn't do. How can you commit this heinous crime against a 14-year-old boy that did nothing? Since his murder, he has become an icon for the civil rights movement. He simply was just living his life. He was visiting relatives near Money, Mississippi, and this is in the Mississippi Delta region. Now, this happened in the summer of 1955, so during summer vacation, specifically August. So he was at a small grocery store where he spoke to 21-year-old Carolyn Bryant. Now, she was white, and she was married to the owner of this grocery store that he was in. Although what happened in this grocery store is still a matter of a dispute, Emmett was accused of flirting with her or whistling at her. Now, this interaction with her violated an unwritten code of behavior for a black male interacting with a white female in this era of Jim Crow in the South. So, a few nights after the incident at the store, Bryant, her husband Roy, and his half-brother J.W. Millam were armed. They went to Emmett's great-uncle's house and they abducted Emmett. They took him away, they beat him, and they mutilated him before they shot him in the head and before they sunk his body in the Tallahatchie River. And about approximately 3 days later, this is when his mutilated and bloated body was discovered and retrieved from the river. His body would be returned to Chicago, which is where his parents were, and his mother insisted on having an open casket in a public funeral service so people could see what happened to her son. His service was held at the Roberts Temple Church of God in Christ. Now, it was later said that Mammy Till Bradley exposed the world to more than just her son when they saw his bloated, mutilated body in the open coffin funeral that he had. Her decision to not just focus attention on just racism in the United States, but how barbaric lynching was. And also that there's no limitations when it came to any type of democracy, specifically for what a white man can do versus what a black man can do. There was tens of thousands of people that attended his funeral and viewed his body. There was images of his body that were published in many different magazines, black-oriented magazines, newspapers. There was different rallies that was held in order to support him. And of course, with that came white sympathy across the United States because we're still in segregated time here. Jim Crow was something that, unfortunately, we had to learn from this, and we still are learning from this because there are still people that will live by Jim Crow laws. The U.S. was under intense scrutiny because of this case. There was no civil rights for black youth. There was no civil rights for blacks at all. This happened in 1955. We wouldn't get anything for years after this, but justice would kind of be served. Local newspapers and law officials initially said that the violence against Emmett Till, and they would call for justice. They also responded to the criticism they were receiving for defending those who killed Emmett Till. In September of 1955, Bryant and Millam were found not guilty of Emmett Till's murder. They were protected because of double jeopardy. These two men publicly admitted in a 1956 interview with Look magazine that they had not only tortured but murdered him, and they sold this story of how they did it for approximately $4,000. So his murder was seen as a giant catalyst when it came to the civil rights movement. In December of 1955, that's when the Montgomery bus boycott happened in Alabama. It lasted more than a year. This would end up resulting in segregated buses are unconstitutional. A move in history, right? Something good in history, right? Well, it wouldn't be until March 29th of 2022 when Joe Biden signed into law the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. Why did it take from 1955 until 2022 for somebody to write this into law? Why did it take these people 70 years, almost 70 years? So 1955 to 2022, that is 67 years. Why did it take somebody 67 years to write into law that made lynching a federal hate crime? This should have been written into law after segregation and civil rights. Finally, we found it should have been signed into law so much earlier than this. Why did it take 67 years for something to come of this? Now, also, what is good to know is that this year, Carolyn Bryant had an active arrest warrant for her because she falsified information when it came to Emmett Till. Interesting, right? So this boy was killed under false pretenses because she said that he whistled at her and flirted with her in her husband's grocery store. So you had your husband mutilate and kill this young boy and throw his body in the Tallahatchie River, all because you said he flirted with you and he whistled at you. Granted, I get it. White women were highly believed over black men at this time and young black boys, but man, what a shit show that is. There's a reason, if you don't know me personally, I love To Kill a Mockingbird because To Kill a Mockingbird, I feel, is a giant representation of how cruel and how unjust and how uneducated people are in the United States. Just like this case. How strongly I feel about why it took 67 years for them to realize that lynching was a hate crime. That's fucking unjust. For them to, just magically find an arrest warrant for Carolyn Bryant. Just magically find 67 years later. Why did it take 67 years to find this? It was clearly just sitting there. Clearly. But no, it took 67 years for them to finally do something when it came to the death of Emmett Till. Now, I know it is going around the internet. I know it is going around that people want Carolyn Bryant arrested. Honestly, I think she should be charged for Emmett Till's murder because she is an accessory to his murder. She's the one that falsely accused him of doing something to her that he never did. She is the one that told her husband this happened. He acted on it, but she's the mastermind. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. I apologize for how heated I get for this topic, but I feel so strongly when it comes to this. So strongly, because this should not happen. This is why there is such wrongdoings in the United States, because people are not educated when it comes to things like this. Lynching still happens. It's still a hate crime. There is many of murders that have happened via lynching that could have been filed under being a hate crime, but never were because it took 67 years for them to publicly acknowledge that he was killed via a hate crime. He was killed because of false pretenses. He was killed and he shouldn't have. This poor young man, 14 years old, should not have died. All because of some white woman thought that she could just simply, he flirted with me. Honey, do something. He flirted with me. He whistled at me. Honey, do something. Doesn't matter if it's Jim Crow. Doesn't matter if it was segregated times. You shouldn't have done that. I hope Carolyn, if you're watching this, or family members are watching this of Carolyn's family, of Emmett Till's family, I hope you realize what you did was wrong. You purposely told your husband, and he killed this young boy, killed him, destroyed any thought of what a future could have been for him. He could have turned into such a beautiful creature, such a beautiful person. He could have done many things in life, but you took it away from him, all because you, at this time, you thought he flirted with you. You thought he whistled at you. You took everything away from him like that. Now, you should pay the price for what you did to him. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn your bell notification on to all. That way you know whenever I upload, and I will see you guys in another video.